Welcome back to Marketing Connected. I'm your host, Xin Ying, and this is Agency Agenda, a show that puts the mic in front of agency leaders, diving into how they navigate the ever-evolving PR and advertising landscape. We have in the studio with us today Peter de Kretser, founder and CEO of Go Communications in Malaysia. Thank you for joining me here in the studio today, Peter.
Shin, it's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here with you.
Thank you.
So thank you.
And you come all the way from Malaysia, so far away.
All the way.
It's
It's been a journey, but no, it's a delight to be here. And obviously, Singapore is a place from the heart, having been born here and living here for many, many years. And
I think you went to Australia.
Yeah, it was a long-winded process. So essentially, it was Singapore first, and back then, bringing it back to the podcast industry, my parents had a PR company some 35, 40 years ago. Giving away my age in Singapore.
We won't count.
Please don't. And so I was born here, moved to Australia for school, university, worked there. And then my, God bless him, my late father, he moved to Malaysia and I sort of joined him there to start Go Communications some close to 20 years ago now.
We were just about to touch on that.
Right.
Peter, you've been at GoComs for a good 20 years and still counting. Before this, you were, and this was just a fun surprise. I think I was just asking you about this earlier, that
Sure.
You used to be a professional footballer.
Yes. I mean, I play that up as much as I can, but as fleeting as it was, as long ago as it was, I played professionally in Australia for a year. I signed my first professional football contract for Melbourne when I was 18 and played for Melbourne Knights. Now called Melbourne Victory. And then I actually played in your country, our country, in Singapore. I played for Tanjong Pagar for 1 year. So amazing part of my life. And what an interesting grounding in terms of, the different disciplines you learn from that into how you bring that into business potentially as well, right?
Can imagine,
Yeah.
like 20 years on now, Go Communications has evolved alongside Malaysia's communications landscape. I think a lot has changed and you've seen it all together with your dad as well. And as you look ahead to 2026 and beyond, what are some of the key focus areas that you're prioritizing to keep the agency relevant and competitive?
Yeah, I mean, Chin, great question. And often I think that sometimes it becomes a bit of a repetitive thing in terms of we're always looking to the future, right? And no doubt we have to embrace technology. We have to embrace buzzwords like AI, incorporate that. But I think sometimes also there's the fundamental elements of what we do as a PR or a comms agency that really matter. So you can look ahead, you can plan, you can converge with what that's going to do. But if you leave everything behind, then what happens? And essentially, I still do believe that we are a human capital business, right? And at the center of that is the power of a great story. And why Go, I believe, Touchwood has been successful to some degree, is because we fight for that story. And irrespective of the platform, the vehicle, it's how we adapt the brand to a great story that's going to meet objectives and, reach the desired audience. Yes, we embrace technology, of course, and I brainstorm with ChatGPT most days. We obviously have tools in the office that help us in many respects.
Yeah.
But I think also at the same time, yes, we can sort of prepare, but at the same time, how we shape and think internally and not forgetting that that's an important aspect in terms of what we do. The power of a great story, I think, is something that Go has been really sort of devout on since inception.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as AI can help us with like the writing, the research, and all the little bits, but if you can't spot a good story, it's not gonna fly. So, like you say,
And hey, listen, there'll be some challenges out there that will say that maybe they come up with something better. But I think it's, hey, whether we're brainstorming back in the day with Google, brainstorming in a boardroom,
yeah,
brainstorming by a campfire, now we have ChatGPT. I think it brings you to a certain point. At the end of the day, ChatGPT, as much as you feed it, will not have that emotional intelligence to have that relationship with a particular client. it'll get you maybe half the way there, but you still need that connection to identify it, right? I mean, when we brainstorm internally, one of the things I say is, what are the hardships of getting an idea across the line? One is coming up with the idea. That's hard enough in itself. The second aspect is, if you're brainstorming in a room, you've got 50 ideas with 50 colleagues, let's say. What ideas are the ones we're going to cherry pick and sell potentially? And then you've got to sell it and get it across the line. That's even before you execute. So there's a process and sometimes an underwarranted or underappreciated aspect to what we do. And I'm talking about the entire fraternity in terms of how that transpires. So all of these different things, yes, tech plays a role, of course. But when you look at those different steps and how you get it across, is ChatGPT going to sell that to my client tomorrow? Well, potentially in time, but
Maybe,
not at the moment.
Yeah, 20
Yeah.
years a humanoid robot can help you do it.
I
but-
can't wait. And I can take a back seat and have a cup of tea.
Yeah. So Go recently appointed Andreas as chairman, marking a significant leadership milestone for you guys. What does his appointment signal about the next chapter for Go? How do you see the dynamic between founder leadership and chairmanship shaping the agency's direction?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's funny, Andreas and I, we talk about timing in life. The irony of this is, although deliberate, we've known each other for the best part of 20 years in a personal capacity. And I've seen him run the world in terms of many different constabularies, whether it's, Omnicom Group M. I've known his history in terms of working in Japan, New York. And there was always just a beautiful relationship between the two of us. One as people, where we could trade ideas. Two as colleagues, if we were going to sort of merge and do work together. And then it kind of, like things do, transpired into a blossoming relationship where, hang on a minute, here's a gentleman that's got all this experience. I certainly know I can't, not that I'm doing it on my own, but I think any CEO out there that's certainly an entrepreneur, you need a sounding board, you need mentorship, and you need someone to discuss things with as you grow. And if that ascendancy which Go is on is going quite well, it was a marriage made in heaven. And then you ask, right, okay, that's me. What about the company itself? As you'll know, Andreas, he's running his own training company, which is doing incredibly well. And then if we do have a fundamental focus on human capital, which we were discussing earlier, why not translate that prowess and skill set and beauty into helping our people? And, already since the announcement, we've done a couple of training sessions and it's been immensely popular. And I probably should have done it sooner if he was willing to have me. But he's a great guy, fundamentally. And obviously there's a commonality in terms of how we can help each other moving forward.
So Go works with an enviable mix of global and local brands. This is like from the past year of me bugging you guys for stories for all these campaigns that you're on. You've got Tesla before, you've got Lego, you have New Balance, and even Secret Recipe, some of the local ones. What are the biggest challenges in translating global brand narratives for the Malaysian market without losing cultural nuance or relevance? Because I think in the recent years, with so much that's been going on in Malaysia itself, brands have been trying their best to be hyper-local, to be more culturally relevant. So how do you help global brands do that instead?
Well, I mean, let me start by saying this. I mean, much like Singapore, you do have the beauty of a multicultural mix, right? So it is a different audience from the onset. And how do you sort of reach out to that in terms of what it is? But I mean, from a Go perspective, obviously we're homegrown. I mean, yes, I've been born in Singapore and lived there. I'm now sort of Malaysian born, but we have a team that's homegrown, and you've got to remain with the international standards. I've got to give most of the clients credit, right? And this is chemistry where you sort of talk to them in that sense, where it's not that they're unaware or not sure, but again, it's counsel from on the ground and proactive information that's going to help them sort of proliferate and get better in terms of how you go about it. I mean, I remember when we were doing, for example, Sarawak tourism, and this is a classic. State was selling Sarawak as a beach destination. If you've been to Sarawak, there's Damai Beach, which is, yeah, it's hard to compete with the likes of Bali, Phuket.
I would say Sabah has a bit more beaches.
Correct. And then there was a discussion and a debate in terms of how we look at the flora, the fauna, the Iban warriors, the crescendo of the Rainforest Festival, and things like that, which was pretty cool. When it came to even Singapore Airlines, how do you localize that? Well, we moved it from safety and security to service, and immortalized the Singapore girl into Madame Tussauds. So these are things where you can make it culturally adaptive, but also impactful, where you've got the awareness, the education, and bring customers, clientele. So I think the underlying answer is, of course, there are ways you can be cultural. You just have to be attuned and aware to what the market desires. And again, be flexible to those sort of needs and wants.
So, PR, public relations, has long been measured by coverage. But you've championed a shift from coverage to cash.
Have I? I'm not sure about that. Okay, but if I have, then I'll take it.
So how is Go linking communications efforts more directly to business outcomes, and how receptive are clients to this evolution?
Shin, this question, it's been asked for the last 30 years, and it'll probably be asked for the next 30.
Forever.
Right? And you're right. There is a publicity value. There is an AV value that us practitioners that have been looking at for a long time. There's even ways you can break that down into different micro detail, from positive, negative headlines. Does it get key messaging? Sure. The client is still going, well, what does that mean? And then you have the technological revolution, where from a social standpoint, you can sort of track certain social campaigns back. But even that doesn't give you the full picture, right? Because essentially, I think the question is, what does PR do for you? And so, yes, it is something that correlates back to bottom line, but it also can be awareness building. And essentially, if you're going to continue to ask the question, how do I measure awareness building? Maybe you can't, simply put, right? Maybe you shouldn't. There's also credibility building. But if there is an opportunity for you to measure the cut through, then you do it, if that makes sense. For example, a smart promotion. I've found something that works really well for us is, if the client wants an EV measurement that's not from SDN, what about an open book policy? Let's have an open book policy where there's a sense of transparency and honesty with us. We will do our thing, obviously agreed as a campaign, but let's work together every month to see what worked and what didn't. So from the organic publicity, if there was a particular publication, online, social media campaign that worked, tell us if that translated directly to bookings. And you have that relationship with the client where they say, and then you start going, well, hang on, that media, that vehicle works for us, as opposed to ones that didn't.
Yeah.
And then it's a pretty honest dialogue. And again, I don't think it's more clinical than that in terms of what you need from a bottom line perspective.
So, Peter, social influence and community-driven platforms are increasingly shaping brand perception, as you can see today. Every day, all the stories that come out, it's very centered around that. So how has Go been integrating social and digital capabilities, and what role does PR play in this more connected ecosystem?
Well, I don't think you can separate PR from social or KOL. PR is public relations, right? So it's awareness among the public. So essentially, that's kind of an umbrella. All the rest are these vehicles that go out to do it, whether it be, again, back in the day, newspapers. If you've got a story on the Business Times, you're winning. If you're doing KOLs, if you're doing a social media campaign, again, when I kind of look back in the not too distant future, I used to remember brands that would sit up and sort of draw on the whiteboard a pie chart, and what they would say is, guys, before we even start, and all the agencies are in the room, 50% is going to media, 25% is going to social, 10% is going, even before you knew what you were doing. So they'd kind of carve up the budgets to sort, without understanding what and to a degree it can still happen today, But sometimes when you look at the problem, the audience, and the delivery, maybe you don't need the 50% media. Maybe you can save $5 million because that can be done through a KOL campaign. Maybe the 25 can be done organically. Maybe you can harbor everything under one umbrella that rather than as a one-day wonder can work for 12 months. And so it's that mentality. Yes, social media is prevalent. KOLs are prevalent. We've been through things that haven't worked. The metaverse, I mean, when I was going through that, everyone was thinking that's going to be the next big thing. We're going to live in the second world.
Yeah.
Where is that today?
Where is it?
Where are NFTs? Yeah. And that was the next big thing. And I, studied that religiously. So there are things that are going to be constant. But again, it's the vehicle that's going to get to the audience and then using that effectively, creatively, intelligently to do it that way. I mean, I'll just give you one example. When we launched the DoubleTree Hilton, influencer based, we said, if you go to the DoubleTree anywhere in the world, you get a warm chocolate chip cookie on arrival. It's kind of their thing around the world. And we thought, wow, that's really cute. It's part of their hospitality. We came up with a campaign, who stole the cookie chip? Who stole the cookie from the cookie jar? And we invited influencers from Malaysia and Singapore to come and stay.
Wait, this is like a whodunit, like mystery, right?
Very much a Cluedo.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was kind of, again, was it the family? Was it the business traveler? So we had the stakeholders as the potential culprits. But the influencers would go through the hotel on this sort of engineered gameplay social media thing where they actually had to interact with every aspect of the hotel. So if they went to the room, they needed to make the bed and make sure it was all good. If they went to the wedding, they needed to sort of create a wedding chapel. If they went to the pool, they needed to dive in and get the next clue. And it was kind of cute. But I think that's how we use social, right? Rather than celebrity, giving them a Samsung mobile phone and saying, hey, that's great, all well and good. But if you can ingrain them into a really cool concept and a story, then it's going to be far more effective.
It's not like you're completely replacing it purely with KOL immersive campaigns, but you're doing it side by side in tandem.
And that's how you embrace strategy behind storytelling as well. So great story, how do you then unpack that story? Jack and Jill didn't just go up the hill, right? There was something that happened after it. Yeah. And why did they go up the hill? There was something else behind it. And often we just sort of start there, finish there, and that's it. Press releases sent out. What's the impact? What's the longevity? How does it move people? How does it make impact? And that's how we go about it.
I'm never going to see Jack and Jill the same way again.
Okay, no problem.
And the hill.
Yes.
So as Go now enters its third decade, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Are there ambitions to expand into a more regional partnerships?
Well, I think, firstly, thank you. Go's been around 20 years. Started very humbly together with my late father and a colleague, Sharia Lars. So it was the trio that started it and then grew it to 50 plus. Within 10 years, we then, although born, headquartered there, built what's called the Go Group. So currently we're in 15 different markets across Asia Pacific, covering most of the capitals. So whether that's Singapore, Jakarta, as far north as Japan, Korea, right into sort of markets of China, India, even Sri Lanka. Last year we opened Australia. And the expansion it's done prodigiously, but with the right DNA. So everywhere we go is like-minded companies. They run their own bottom line. They are CEOs, but they're independents, they're entrepreneurial and they're flexible, and share a similar mindset in terms of how we work with clients. And even today we do regular Go summits where collectively we catch up. We did one in Angkor Wat, in Cambodia, all together, physically and online. So it's pretty impressive. I can tell you that on the horizon, we're looking at moving into the Middle East, predominantly Dubai, as our next kind of move. And there are some companies in the UK that we're sort of looking at. But at the moment, we've always championed pretty much a Australasia way of life. And so getting that right here, predominantly first, was always how we wanted to do it.
Now, with all this talks with agencies and partners, how do you maintain the agency's DNA throughout the Go
Well,
and the different markets?
yeah. Well, the beauty about this particular formula is that we're not asking anyone to change. We want these respective agencies to keep their own DNA. They're best in class in their markets for a reason. It's how we come together and share similar mindset. And that's what matters, especially when we're sort of dealing with clients and things like that. I think in years gone by, people were conditioned to conform to a particular way and, report into a Hong Kong and New York unnecessarily sometimes perhaps with certain financial accounting and things like that. The flexible model in this day and age, I think, works really well for us. We're not asking anyone to sort of share a similar logo, a similar culture. They do what works best for them. That's representational of our clients collectively in their market, doing the best results that they can achieve together. And that's how we win.
So finally, Peter, for brands who are looking to make it big in Malaysia, in ASEAN, in the rest of Southeast Asia, what matters most? Is it sharp messaging? Is it deeper cultural understanding, like what we talked before? Or is it more interactive activations? We've been seeing that a lot. I think a lot of in-person physical activations that are immersive and interactive. Or is it something else that is not on the list that I just mentioned?
And I love this question. This was the best one for me out of a whole lot.
Thank you.
To the point where I think you could have a panel on this
Oh, let's go.
and possibly get all sorts of different feedback from different types of personalities within the business, right? Ultimately, what gets you there? I use a pretty simple philosophy internally when we're pitching with clients in how to win. It's kind of the 3 C's. Creativity, right? So you've got to demonstrate to the client creativity in terms of your ideation, your strategy. Equally important is the chemistry, right? How does the client feel about you? Do they like the team? Did you come across well? And then it's cash, because budget.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be all 3. If you tick all 3 boxes, you kind of win the day most of the time. Sometimes you can tick one of these boxes and still win. For example, if you're the lowest budget, you might not be the best. And clients we all operate like this, no umbrage to that, but they'll pick the cheapest, right? So you can win on that. Sometimes it can be, you're my best friend, Shin. Let's work together. I might not be the smartest in the room, but hey, with our synergy and all that sort of stuff, and I come in comparatively from a budget standpoint. So you start with that premise, right? And then I think more importantly, in a cluttered marketplace in comms, what defines you? Let me give you one little nugget as well. I've worked with, just again, for 20 years, and not to sound like a dinosaur because I'm only 21. What defines it when you sit with a client over a cup of tea and you sort of say at the end of the year, okay, hey, listen, how's it been going? They go, Pete, it's been great. We've had a really good time. And you say, listen, Mary, what's the one thing that stands out? And you might have done 30,000 press releases, 50,000 interviews, but it's that one idea or that one campaign that sticks out that they remember for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
It's not the hard work, the heavy lifting. Don't get me wrong, that's important. Something that's going to distinguish you. And that's why at Go we fight so hard for the big idea. Yes, delivery and cut through and conversion is important. But if you're just going to do the same old thing with a twist, a slight twist, it's not enough.
So on that note, Peter, thank you so much for being a part of this episode of Agency Agenda. And yeah, great to have you here with us.
Shin, it's been a pleasure. And thank you for having me.
And to the listeners out there, fear not. Although this interview with Peter de Kretser of Go Communications is over, we've got loads of other episodes you can catch on our Marketing Connected channel and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Marketing Director's social media pages, Telegram, Instagram, and LinkedIn to get alerts on new podcast episodes. Once again, thank you for tuning in to Marketing Connected, brought to you by Marketing Interactive.